Good evening to our audience tonight. Due to unforeseen circumstances and some technical issues, Patrick will hopefully join us later this evening. And unfortunately, Baldev is also out of the signal range. So we do have Carl on the show tonight, and we'd like to welcome him for our discussion tonight. Hi, Carl.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for coming onto the show tonight. And it's a huge privilege, especially after winning the rally this past weekend. Eh?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Still trying to get used to it.
But by the amount of rallies that you've done and won already in the past, you ought to be used to it already.
Yeah, I'm used to it, but just in a new car, everything seemed to gel. We got the car at the beginning of the week. It's just one of those rallies that works for us, and yeah, it's great when things like that happen. Some rallies don't.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, but before we come to the new car, which is definitely going to be one of the highlights or the discussion points, take us through your rally career and where it all started. What we can see in terms of the history charts, it started off in 1995 in WRX Impreza. Take us through that and why rallying and where did the passion come from?
So I come from a rallying family. My father is a rally driver. He still competes in rallying. And just the love of it. You know, the Kenya's had the WRC, the Safari Rally here for generations. So it's quite a big sport out here. Growing up on a farm, I suppose sort of the combination of everything, you know, boys and toys. So my father kind of got me into it. We used to follow him around the Safari Rally when it was a long endurance event, and then he got a drive for Subaru when it was WRC days, and then managed to sort of get me a second hand what they used for recce, and the rest is history. I did the I think it was the '95 Safari Rally, and then obviously had to go and study, and then when I came back to Kenya to live, I used every coin I had and managed to get a car, and yeah, and here we are. So I've been rallying a long time now. I'm not I'm definitely Baldy and I are definitely the oldest on the scene.
And if you look at all the different pictures and all the different events, there's always yourself involved. It was like two brothers, close knit brothers. There's always well, I think competing when you put the helmets on, but also on weekends and that maybe spend some time with family. Maybe just take us through how's the setup in Kenya and the environment with inside of the rally scene.
It's definitely got a lot more serious, I suppose. In the old days, it was socializing first and then competing against each other second, I suppose. It is still still like that. I've got a lot of friends that, you know, it's a close family. We play hard and we compete hard against each other. And you know, Baldy and I have been racing against each other for a long time. So I suppose and he's a close friend. So it's fun. It's great. It is what it is, and we seem to always be in similar cars, which is nice. So we're always on a level playing field. That's suddenly changed, obviously, with the equator one off. But usually we kind of try and do things together.
Okay, and you've also rallied a Datsun 160U, was the 160J in 2001. Now we have a lot of old school ralliers and enthusiasts and which loves old cars. Maybe talk about the old cars and before we get to the latest version of rally cars.
So the 160J was actually lent to me by a friend called Rob Hellier, who's also rallied here. I used to service for him, and he very kindly had the 160J sitting there, and he said, if you can get a set of tires, come and use it. So that was great fun. It was a good experience, and myself and Tim took it in turns. He drove some, and I drove some, and that's how it all started with Tim, I suppose. And then we also have a classic series out here, which is quite big. So I've got a Triumph, a TR7 V8, which is one of my favorite cars because it's basically a Range Rover engine in a Datsun. So it's just super fun to drive. It's old technology. It's unfortunately it's British technology, but other than that, it is really good fun to drive.
Yeah, and it's spectacular also. So is that where the link between yourself and Ian Duncan comes together also? Because Ian and yourself raced under the same flag this weekend. Under the
no, Ian's kind of a legend. Yeah, Ian's a legend over here. He's sort of set and broken. He's been rallying. I mean, he's very old, let's say, right now. But he's been rallying for 30 plus years, and he's won the Safari. He's won when it was the WRC. And he was, I suppose, a guy that we all looked up to and wanted to beat. He's also a good friend. I luckily only had to compete with him in the latter part of his years, because I think if I'd competed against him when he was in his prime, it would be a different story.
Yeah, no, Ian is really iconic because when you walk into the airport in Kenya, Nairobi, then that's the first thing you see is the Capri going sideways with the animals in the background. So that picture always stays with me.
Yeah, it's he's done so much for motorsport as well, and he's a pretty impressive character, although he's very grumpy.
I spoke to Ian about coming onto the show also. He just said to me, not now, later.
Yeah, that'll be him.
So your father rallied, yourself you're rallying now, and your sister, I believe your sister was also a driver and a co-driver.
Yeah, she had a crack at driving, and also she navigated for my dad. She also navigated for me in one rally, which was quite nice. So it's in our blood. My mum organizes events. It's as I said, it's a big rallying family.
Yeah, no, and that's good. So Carl, maybe take us through the different cars that you had, because there's a bloodline here of Subarus. You had some Fords, and then obviously the Mitsubishi Lancer, which is one of my personal favorites. Um, what is the comparison between the Subarus that you had and now the Evo 10, and then maybe we go into the R5?
So I suppose I started in Subarus, due to the fact that that's what I used in the WRC, and they were readily available in the country. They were easy, spares were easily available. And then I progressed on to the Mitsubishi, so an Evo 9, and then an Evo 10, and and then now obviously the R5 is there for a couple of events. I used to be a Subaru man until I drove the Mitsubishi.
And how different is the Evo 10 from the Subaru?
So the Evo 10, in my opinion, has got a lot more torque, and it is easier to drive, I suppose. The Subaru is a fun car. You sort of throw it around a lot more, but the Evo 10 has some serious power behind it, and it's a fairly. It looks like a tank, but it's quite an easy sort of nimble car to drive. Um, yeah.
And versus the R5 now, because there seems to be a massive influx of R5s coming into Kenya, and surprisingly, it's the VW Polo that's making its entrance. We would have
Yeah,
expected,
there were some Skodas and
yes,
Fiestas that came in first, and then when the
yeah.
the Polo arrived, there's a few guys that the Rise, the Onker and Tej sort of picked up some of those the VWs. I haven't driven the Skoda or the uh, the Fiesta, but my one experience in this VW is it's a beautiful car. I mean, it's proper German engineering, and it's purposely built for rallying. You know, the suspension, the travel, the gearboxes. I mean, it was an eye opener. I see why we struggle in the Evo 10 to keep up with it.
And what's the future plans for the car? Because you touched on it earlier, you said that maybe it's just for a few events.
Yeah, at the moment it's so originally it was just for the Safari Rally, and then the owner Minty Motorsport, he couldn't make it out and called me up and asked me if I would like to use it as a test run for the Safari Rally, which of course I was never going to turn down.
I don't think any rallyers would.
And I think it'll be very difficult to get back into the Evo 10, although I do love her.
It's like going to your ex-girlfriend.
I agree, yeah.
So, I hope your wife is not watching. but but so in terms of the WRC, which is coming now in June, uh, what's the plans then? Give us some insight, because what we're trying to do in terms of the build up to the event, we had the organizers previously a few months back. We had some of your fellow competitors on the show also, and then obviously now you. And we're planning on to have more shows as a build up to the WRC. So maybe give us some insight into your team's plans and the discussions that's currently happening.
So I think there'll be quite a bit of testing to come now. I definitely am not driving the Evo 10, the VW to its maximum potential. Yeah, I suppose we just get ready and go and enjoy ourselves. I mean, we're not looking to the machines and drivers that are coming out. I think to be realistic, I suppose we're on home ground and we do understand, Kenyan rallying. That might be slightly, the roads, etc., might be slightly in our favor, but there's no way, we'll be scrapping at the back for scraps. But between now and then, I suppose just keep fit, make sure we've stripped the car completely, try and get it fully prepared and fully sort of reliable for the event. It'll be a long event. I think it'll be, because we'll be running at the back, I think the roads will have deteriorated. I'm hoping it's a wet rally again. I think that
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose, just get on with life until the rally comes and hope COVID doesn't ruin the chance.
Yeah, for sure not. No, hopefully this rally will happen this year, because I know a lot of people. There's a lot of excitement around it. There's well, not these talks. There's been confirmation also that the likes of Ken Block is coming over in a Porsche. If my memory
That's
serves me
for the
correct.
that's for the classic rally. There's the East
Okay.
African Classic Rally, which is held in November. So he's coming to do that with. I mean that's a 5,000 k around the country endurance event in old cars, and it's amazing that Ken Block will be here. That'll be to race against him.
Yeah. And are you competing in a Triumph in that event?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, my father and I both have Triumphs. We'll be competing.
Okay, cool. And Baldev, I had a few questions prepared for him also, because he's got a Porsche, right? and that thing must be
Yeah, he's
magic on the gravel.
yeah. Those Porsches are serious machines, and because they're you know they're well developed. The suspension is amazing. I mean, they are the best classic car, I suppose, to use. I just like different alternatives, cheaper versions.
But there's quite a few of these Porsches out in Kenya, and
There's
there's a
a
huge following.
Sorry, carry on.
No, no, no. What I was saying is there's a massive following for the classic rally, and in your opinion, is it better the classic rally in terms of the nostalgia and the crowds and everybody as a pure rally spectator, or is the newer version of the R5 or the likes of the R5 is better to watch?
I think there's a bit of both. I mean, the R5's a phenomenal car to watch, and I think the WRC with the professionals coming out to drive in on our home, on our doorstep will be just unbelievable. But then the classic rally, you're doing 5,000 Ks, you're going all around the country. 70, I think it's about 75 entries. We've got guys from all over the world, ex-winners, ex-champions. You're racing against the likes of Stig Blomqvist. It's a good social, fun, hard event.
But maybe give us some insight on what it takes to put an event like that together. Because if it's a global, international event, it needs to be of a certain stature. How long does it take the event organizers to go on the roads to get permits? And then also, for example, on the WRC, also, I know the team is putting it on in special reservoirs so that you don't. It's not basically on open public roads anymore. But to put a classic rally together, uh, what's the kind of effort and time that it takes? Because even today, I saw there was notices that you got some sponsorship towards the WRC, but what kind of sponsorship is involved for classic rally also?
Yeah, obviously I don't I don't get too involved in the organization, but I
Yeah,
can imagine it just being, firstly trying to find accommodation for 70 plus entries and their crews, and then the route, basically trying to find roads that are, because it is a public, we do use public roads, so you've got to find um, less used areas to race in, and then you've got to link them all up, and they've got to, yeah, I would say it's, that's why they do it every 2 years, because of the length of organization that goes into it, and I take my hats off to them. I suppose with the WRC, this build, the rally that happened last weekend, it was amazing to see how many people out there, and the backing from everyone there. It was a fantastic. It was really professionally run from years past, and yeah, I hope they can live up to the task of putting on a great event and keeping the rally in Africa for a few more years to come.
yeah, no, for sure. So definitely is the premium event on the African continent is happening now in June. And in terms of the African Rally Championship, this was the first leg that took place now this weekend past. Are you considering doing other events later in the year?
I don't think so. Not at the moment. I think the aim is the Kenya Championship, and unfortunately, I think the African Championship it's an extremely expensive series to do. It takes up a hell of a lot of time, to get to all these countries, to get your vehicles to the countries, to get across borders, getting the crew there. And then on the, I don't, I the competition, I suppose, of the amount of people actually competing in the ARC is, is it really worth the effort to race against sort of a handful of people? I don't know what the answer is, but I do feel that there's there's got to be some sort of I don't know. I don't know the answer to it, but the answer for me competing in other ARCs, although I'd love to, I just don't think I have the time and the money to do it. You know, I would love to go to Rwanda and Uganda and Tanzania, but it always falls within our own championship, and that to me is a bit more important.
No, for sure. So, how big is the Kenyan Rally Championship? Maybe for some insight to our audience to know.
You know, unfortunately, it's dwindled. 10, 15 years ago, we had a good backing by one of Kenya Commercial Bank. They're still backing us, but there were, you know, anything up to 50, 60, 70 cars. Unfortunately, now, I suppose, with I don't know, strange times, you know, we've only got sort of a hand 20, maximum 20 sort of entries, so we're in a bit of a dip. I think it'll get better once we know what will happen with COVID and once businesses start sort of getting back to normal. But at the moment, it's pretty dead, to be honest. But yeah, us diehards will keep going.
Keep the campfires going and bring out the old classic car. Well, the Evo 10s in this case. So
Yeah.
maybe just to pause again at the weekend pass. When I was busy watching and following it, right, it seemed like you went to a duck to water, excuse the pun, but you seem to love rallying and racing in mud and in water. Is that your preference, and what kind of skill or what makes you different in terms of other drivers that maybe do not like this kind of conditions?
I think you cut out a bit, but basically I thrive. I really enjoy wet rallies. I don't know why. I mean, I brought up on a farm, maybe driving cars at an early age in muddy conditions. I can't answer that, but I do enjoy it. Our mud conditions here, I don't know. Well, I haven't experienced any anywhere else in Africa. It is pretty slippery. It is pretty, you know, the mud holes are pretty deep. It's quite extreme. Yeah, it's a I suppose it's a more of a look after your car kind of rallying rather than a pure speed. But also keeping the car in a straight line. I think it just comes from experience and an upbringing on the farm.
Yeah. Now we need to touch on the juicy parts, right? To the untold stories. How many offs have you had, and how bad was it? Because this weekend course, I saw a even thing lying on his side in a ravine, and they had to lift it out with a crane truck.
Yeah, you know, it comes with rallying. I've probably had my fair share of whoopsies. My navigator Tim and I were trying to work out which car we hadn't crashed yet, and I don't think I've got one. My worst, I suppose, was in an old. Well, it wasn't an old. It was an Evo. Sorry, an N10 Subaru N10. We went off the side of a valley. But the other ones have all been sort of slow rolls where I've managed to be able to finish the rally or get it back onto the road. I've had, yeah, obviously with 20 years of rallying, I've rolled a car probably 10 times, I would say. I might be, maybe more, but it comes with rallying, and definitely in the beginning of my career, I crashed a lot more than I do now, and I'm going to touch wood on that one and hope I don't jinx myself.
And how many navigators have you had in the process?
One. Yeah, literally, I've been with Tim. Sort of, it's the longest standing partnership in sort of Kenyan history. We've been together since. Well, I did the 95, the one-off 95 WRC with another friend of mine. But since I rallied here in earnest, I've used Tim 99.9% of the times, apart from the one rally that I did with my sister. My father and I swapped. My sister came with me, and Tim went with my dad for the last event of the year. But apart from that, I've used Tim. It would be very weird to use someone else for some reason. I don't know. It's I'm a creature of habit, and obviously he's kind of the best. I would say the best navigator in Kenya. So I'm very lucky to have him.
No, for sure. So I'm getting questions here from the audience, and they're saying, can we touch on the different surfaces that's in Kenya? Because we spoke about the wet, then there's obviously the dry, but then I saw some comments over the weekend also to say that I think some of the drivers are not used to the well, we call it ruts, but it seemed like on the event that there were some big ditches and things like that. Versus other rallies
Yeah,
and different terrain.
yeah. You know, unfortunately, and I don't know, no fault of the organizers, because of the accommodation that is needed to host a WRC, the routes that we have are not the best, and it's a shame. They're not the best rally roads that we use in Kenya. You know, we've got some phenomenal areas to rally where they are smooth and proper roads and you know, hairpins. There's a section called Floor Spar in the Kerio Valley, which is up north. You know, there's like 3 escarpments that we do in a day. Unfortunately, what we are rallying on and what the WRC boys are rallying on, unfortunately, is, in my opinion, not the best rallying that we can offer. But I suppose with what we have for accommodation wise, it is the only sort of option. Yeah, it's a car breaker. It's definitely a car breaker, this past rally. You have to be you've got to use your head a lot rather than just pure speed. So I suppose that's also why I did fairly well. Old level-headed, maybe. I don't know.
Well, with a lead of about, I think it was over 12 minutes after day one, definitely you were far apart.
No, I mean, some rallies just happen like that, you know. Everything gels, everything clicks. It was muddy, you know. People. This rally was more, you know, trying not to get caught out by the terrain rather than trying to enjoy yourself and get into a rhythm. It was literally, it was tough. We had some close moments the whole way around, and it just the rally gods were with us this time. And yeah, lucky for me, I'm super excited and happy that we came out on top.
Yeah. So, in terms of the conditions, and I'm also asking basically in terms of preparation with WRC, if you look at the R5s that's been brought out and you're going to be running it on the WRC in the event in June, has it been specially adapted now for these conditions, and also the cars that the works teams are putting out, are they adapting it also for Kenya? Because in the past, in the 80s when they ran it, they used to bring a special purpose-built car just for the safari.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a few bits and pieces that have been homologated for safari, like a snorkel and a bull bar at the front. But other than that, I think, yeah, I suppose the suspension settings will be different. You know, the car will run a lot higher than they used to. But I think the majority of the car will stay the same, just due to sort of the homologation of it. There won't be such a huge change as you said in the old days, where they built a specific safari car, and I think the cost of doing that will be to our detriment if they had to. So, you know,
Yeah.
try and keep it as cheap as possible for the manufacturers, so that they want to come back and don't feel that it's not worth the effort.
Yeah. No, for sure. And maybe give us some insight into who's the Minty team, because it's the first time I think some of us have seen it on the continent. Um, if you can, maybe some insight into what else you're bringing.
Yeah, so Minty T, it's a UK-based rally team. The owner is ex-Kenyan. He lives now in the Middle East. He's a huge rally junkie, a bit like myself. I think he used to compete in the old days in the Safari Rally, and his love of rallying, I suppose. He's also a big classic fan. He's got a selection of Nissans, as you saw Ian driving. Yeah, and he just wants to build Kenyan rallying back to what it used to be. So full thanks to Minty, and hopefully we can do him proud in the coming event.
No, for sure. So let's touch on the future of rallying in Kenya. And is there any development programs in place for the youngsters that desire getting into a rally car? What's being done in that regard?
Unfortunately not, and not really. There never really has been. It's a big shame, but I suppose it's like motorsports around the world. If you know, I'm very lucky and privileged to have a father that is interested in rallying. Something needs to happen, I suppose, to get the youth involved. There's an Abdul City sort of rallying academy and he's been part of the rallying scene for even when I was a kid. So he's the only guy that kind of assists and help young navigators and drivers on an educational front to sort of to show them what it is like to, or what they have to do. But we lack sponsorship for these guys. Unfortunately, it's kind of you've got to prove it. I suppose if you're good at football, you pick up football and people notice it. With rallying, you've literally got to try and find a car and then show some results in that car to get noticed. So unfortunately, motorsport is yeah. I'm sure there's lots of young drivers out there that are around the world that are much better than than those that are rallying at the moment. But it would be great. Yeah, it would be great. I'm hoping with the WRC that there are some sort of government initiatives, or even part of our organisers' mandate and FIA to try and sort of promote the sport a bit better and actually put money into these young guys, because there's so many fans out there, and they have such a love for the sport, as we all do. That we need more young blood involved, not just old cronies like myself.
so on the point of the FIA, right? There's a program running at the moment called Rally Star, where they're doing simulator training, or simulator racing at least. What's your thoughts on simulator racing? Patrick and I, we normally have sometimes a very contentious discussion about it, because the older generation feels you need to get out in the car, you need to get dirty, you need to have the smell. Whereas for me, there's a science and a technique and a discipline behind driving, and besides the technical and the prepping of the car. So if you can superimpose that skill on a simulator, in your opinion, do you think that it's a good starting point?
I definitely do. I mean, there's the story. I don't know who the guy is who won in a simulator and then started rallying and performed pretty amazingly. I can't remember who he is. But it's a cheap form where kids and Joe Public can get involved, and I think it's anything to promote it, and yeah, there's the technical side of it and the actual feel of it, but the technology these days, it's amazing what can be done to make it as real as possible. So for me, anything to promote the sport and get guys that normally wouldn't be able to get involved, the better. I mean, the more the merrier, and so to speak. And if that then leads to, you know, actually getting in a normal car, you know, who's to say it's a bad idea? I think it's a great initiative.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, for sure. So touching on technology, this week also there's been footage released about some hybrid rally cars that's been being tested. What's your thoughts on the new era of rallying that's coming onto the horizon about hybrid cars and possibly no sound to it?
You mean electric cars? I think
Yeah.
they'll be pretty impressive from what I've seen. The acceleration on those things are unbelievable. I think it would be fantastic if they could stick a speaker on and just make the sound out. Yeah, here it might be a bit difficult. Yeah, you know, we progress, we move on, and yeah, I again, it's new ideas. It's building the sport, and it's making it interesting to everyone. Bring it on, I say. Any form of motorsport, anything that helps the youth sort of get excited and get going and being able to join. I think it's a great. It'll be brilliant. Yeah, I think their
No,
speeds will be phenomenal.
yeah, no, so there's some great advantages that the sim and the training offers, and then obviously you can go and show your stuff once you get into a call opportunity for a call. But there's another component which not just makes a driver successful is the navigator. What's your take on the navigator being next to you, especially with you being having Tim next to you for such a long time period? Patrick normally asks the question: Is the navigator just there for ballast, or does the navigator have a role?
Yeah, you know, he has about 5%.
I think you're about to get a phone call after the show is done.
No, obviously, I mean the reason I have done so well in my career has been, you know, the backing of Tim, who is, you know, as I say, we started together. We are close friends. You know, we're godparents of each other's kids. We've grown up together. I think that's a big part of rallying as well, being able to do it with friends and family. And look, you know, it's an integral part of rallying. You need him to be able to know what he's calling and know what he's doing and advising and keeping you level-headed when you're not. And you know, rallying is not it's not a one-man show. It's a sort of a team event. You've also got your mechanics and everything, but I'd say having a good solid sort of navigator is a big part of it. Reading the notes at the right time. You know, we kind of we've gelled for a long time, so he knows exactly when he calls a left and sees me setting the car up to go right. He you know, he he's pretty good. So I would say it's an integral part of rallying.
No, for sure. But touching on the point of rallying being a team, now you have moved from an Evo to an R5. In terms of the team preparation, your technical team, your mechanics, what did it all take for them to adapt to the new R5?
Yeah, it was a pretty quick learning session. So we picked the car up on the Monday, stripped it, looked at it. I've also had a mechanic team manager sort of called James that's been with me for since I started. Well, not quite since I started, but he's been with me for 16 years, and he you know, he's pretty amazing mechanic. So I'm lucky to have him. So he got my team together, and we stripped the car, saw what needed to be done, and practiced for a day and a half. We used to rally a Proton, which was a sort of a Malaysian S2000, which the running gear is pretty similar to the R5. So it wasn't completely new. But yeah, it again, I'm just lucky to have a team that has the experience.
No, that is, and I think it's very important that in terms of alignment, that the driver, navigator, team, everybody's on the same wavelength in order to get good results. So, in terms of, and I think we've touched on the future already of your team. Uh, what's the next exciting thing that's potentially coming to Kenya after the WRC? What's the other events in your local championship that you'll be competing in? And
Well,
at this, yeah.
yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, there's we have our local championship. We have rounds all around the country. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we are allowed to run them. I think the government gave us an exemption to run the Equator as a build-up to WRC. I think we're obviously allowed to run the WRC. But our local championship, we shall see what happens. And apart from that, it's the classic rally in November is what I'm going to build myself up to, because that is it's hell of an amazing event, and it is great fun. So that's what's on the cards for this year.
And how many entrants are you expecting for the event in November?
For the classic, I think there's 70. That's the one that Ken Block's doing. So,
is that the one? Yes. Okay.
That's 75 cars, guys from all over the world. Yeah, and all staying in different locations around the country in the evening. So it's super social. It's getting to know people from all over the place. We've got Lee Rose, who's down in South Africa. I think
yes.
He's coming out to do it, which will be great. We've got there's some the Balak sisters. I think they're coming to do it. It's just a really social, fun, going back to the old safari rally. The Coronation Safari Rally of old. So that's yeah, it's something to get excited over.
Yeah, man, no, for sure. And I see we have some comments from the audience also. Your old friend Rikus Furi is saying hi also. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. They put it up.
Yeah.
and and maybe take us through the Escort BDA versus the Porsche in the classics. What's your opinion about that?
I have no idea. I think the Porsches are sort of I've sat as a navigator of a friend in the Escort. I think it's it's an amazing car, but I don't know if it's the right machine for the classic rally. We'll see. Depends on whose hands it is. It has won the event, but it depends how rough it is, and also the top speed. Some of the roads are set up for really high speed, where obviously the Porsche way outperforms the Escort. But hopefully we can get some tight, twisty stuff in there. Because I haven't driven either of the cars, I can't comment. All I know that there's going to be a Triumph at the front.
Top with the Land Rover engine, you say. But what kind of power and what kind of running gears in a Triumph?
The Triumph's a funny car. It's got a Rover 3.5 liter V8, so it's a Range Rover engine. It's got a Land Rover gearbox, so you have to double clutch it. And then. It's an old car. My only detriment is the clearance, because it sort of was built as I suppose a British muscle car. The clearance is not that great, but with the latest sort of suspension that we're allowed to use, It's okay. It's got a lot of torque. It's probably 300 plus horsepower, and it's just fun. I mean, the sound. It's a big V8.
Yeah.
It's basically a V8 in an Escort.
Oh, that's crazy. And how's the weight transfer and the traction on that thing?
Yeah, not great. You wheel spin most of the time, but that's the fun of it. Yeah, it's a supercar. There's some videos on my page if you want to sort of watch it. It's a phenomenal beast.
Yeah. No, I see we have some shout outs here also, and I'm assuming it's from our viewers in Kenya also. Uh, I don't know if you can see it on the screen.
I can. Thank you very much, Imani.
No, that's good. So Carl, we're almost on top of the hour. It was a great privilege to chat to you. It's unfortunate that Patrick and Baldev couldn't join us tonight.
Yeah,
But definitely we will invite you guys back onto the show again. And yeah, if there's anything that you want to say, thank you to the sponsors or anybody on the show, please do.
yeah. I just think thanks to all the fans. I mean, we all love rallying in Kenya and across Africa. Thanks to the fans. I love the banter that goes on social media about who they love and who they don't love. And, it is good humor, and so long as that everyone loves it, thanks to everyone, and thanks to Minty, obviously. Thanks to Top Fry. Top Fry have kind of backed me for, the Menengai oil have backed me for 9 years, I think it is now, and for Onka to give me the opportunity to drive the R5 against him. He's a good friend, and that's what I hope the rallying world is about: is friendship and fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we're receiving some questions here. They want to know why the Triumph and not another car. Why the weapon of choice?
So I was trying to find a light car with a V8 in it, so it had a lot of torque. I originally came up with the Rover SD1, that big beast. I think Ian drives one.
Yeah.
But then my ego got the better of me, and I thought I'd look like a in it. So then I won't use the word. So then the Triumph came up. The good thing about the Triumph is that Range Rover, the spares are out there. There's a lot of old Range Rovers. There's a lot of old Land Rovers. There's still, it's cheap compared to the Porsche and the Datsuns and everything. It's not a cheap car to run. I mean, the fuel consumption is ridiculous, but it's as far as spares go, it was a cheap form of getting a lot of power out of a car.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you never touched on the Ford Proto that you also rallied.
Yeah, she's a great car to drive, but I just can't get. I need a sort of a. I can't get. I am always a second or two slower a kilometer in it than in the Evo. The concept should be there, the fact that it's got an Evo 10 engine in a Fiesta, but I just don't think it was built properly. I mean, we still tamper with it. My dad drives it occasionally and is hoping to drive it a lot more, but yeah, I don't know. I do enjoy driving it, but I just can't. I'm not competitive in it.
Okay, no, and I think one of the most important questions, and I think our viewers is asking it on the side, where did the nickname Flash come from? And who gave you the nickname?
My parents, it's funny. It's got absolutely nothing to do with rallying. I was given it, from way back before I can even remember. My parents gave it to me. My brother's called Speedy, so it's Speedy and Flash. There's no rhyme nor reason to it, but I've lived with it all my life, and it's kind of stuck.
Okay. Yeah, I think most of us assume that it's associated with rallying.
Not at all. I think I used to run around naked lots. That's possibly why.
And your sister don't have a nickname either.
My sister is called Natasha, but it's actually it was originally Natosha, and in Swahili that means enough, as in no more kids. So that was her nickname. Yeah.
So the viewers is also saying we cannot forget to ask some of the controversial questions, and that is, would you rate the best rally driver ever in history?
In the world,
Yeah, globally.
Sebastian Loeb. There's no no question. Easy. That's an easy.
Yeah, you gave the easy answer. There was a few other people that came on the show that gave a controversial answer, and then we went into a discussion.
Who did they suggest?
Walter
Chagger.
yeah, the Walter Rolls of the world and the older generation.
Yeah, there's definitely the heroes of the 80s and in the Group B cars.
Yes.
But as far as I suppose raw talent and consistency, and 9 times champion, I think Sebastian, if he had been around, Logan had been in the 80s, he would have outperformed everyone then as well. So that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, others will have others, but that's who I feel. I'm hoping he's coming in June.
Yeah, there's talks of it, eh? There's talks of it.
Yeah.
I even saw some people were trying to spur on to do a poll to get Mr. Malcolm Wilson to bring Loeb out in a Ford.
Yeah, it would be phenomenal. I'm in two. If I'm running in the event, I'll be at the back, and I'm not going to see these guys perform. If I break down, it's because I want to watch the rally. That's my excuse.
So what's your favorite era in terms of rally? Is it the 80s, the 90s, or even others?
Yeah, I would say the 80s. Those Group B cars, the fans, and the excitement, and the okay, it was slightly dangerous, but and safety was kind of thrown out the window, and things had to change quickly. But I suppose to be that talented to be able to drive those cars so fast, I would say the 80s would definitely be at the top of my eras.
And if I was going to keep that question. The producer
they're all fantastic. Baldy, I've raced against the most. So I would say him and I, and we're fairly equal. Alistair is very talented, but has zero brains. I mean, he's the quickest. He used to break. He was very fast, but he used to break the car very quickly. Obviously, Ian is. I can't say he's too old. He's a different generation to me. So, like I said in the beginning, if I'd rallied against him when he was in his prime, it would be a different story. So, I'm very lucky to be able to compete with him when maybe some of his eyesight or reaction. I mean, it's amazing how good he is still at his very old age. and Lee was precise. Very good. He was phenomenally quick. They're all great fun, and the all those people on that list that just came back are close friends. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, and it must be fun. Have you competed with the Triumph against the Capri also of Ian?
I haven't. No.
Okay.
No, he was. What was he in? No, I haven't. I don't think I have. I can't remember what car he was in at the time. Maybe he was in the Capri, but didn't do didn't get very far in it in that year.
Okay, we have one or two last questions. I know we're almost coming to the top of the hour. We have questions here asking, what is your favorite rally car from the 80s in that era? Lancia, Peugeot, or Audi?
I would say the Lancia, because I'm Italian, half.
The question also says and why. You've answered it.
Because I'm Italian. Half Italian, my dad's Italian, so I would say the Lancia.
Okay.
Either the Integrale, yeah.
Okay. So, do you also have a love of Alphas? I need to ask this question because I know Patrick is watching.
He has a love of Alphas, does he?
Yes, for sure. We always joke about the Alpha.
Any Italian engineering is up there with the best. The Alpha is a great car. I'm not sure it would do very well in our rallying out here, but as just a pure design and beauty of the car, I would say it's up there.
No, for sure. No, again, Carl, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. It was absolutely fun chatting to you. I don't want to keep you any longer because I know there's a time difference between us and Kenya also. So we really appreciate you coming onto the show. And for sure, you definitely welcome back to come on the show. And we'll reach out to you maybe after the WRC to find out how it went.
Yeah, let's hope it goes as well as this last event. And thank you all, and thanks for inviting me on the show. It's been good fun.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Carl, and thank you to the audience. It's been fun tonight.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Okay, thanks, Byron.
Bye.